Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast designed to help you become the leader you are destined to be. Welcome to episode number 3 in a series of episodes I'm doing on the elements of personal growth and transformation from my book, Fearfully and Wonderfully Me. And hey, if you are enjoying this series of episodes on the book or on the elements of the book, I'm obviously not reading the book to you, but talking about some of the content in the book. Did you know you can download a preview sample chapters from this book and many of my other books as well? Just go to riastory.com/download. And there you can download preview chapters and sample chapters from most of my books. So just a resource there for you to kind of help you grow. And, again, if you're enjoying and learning from some of these episodes, share them with others in your network. I always encourage people, be a river. If you're finding value in something, if something is helping you grow, not just my stuff, but in general, if you found value in something, then be vocal about it. Share it with someone else and help someone else grow too. So today I wanted to talk about the last part of the first element. The first element of personal growth and transformation is self-belief. And we talked about believing I am responsible, not for everything that happens, but I'm responsible for me. And then believing that you can change whatever it is that you want to change. Obviously, not everything is possible to change, but most of the time, we can achieve what we want to if we're willing to put the work in, create the discipline, and sacrifice whatever it is we're going to have to sacrifice. Because and if you don't know, let me just tell you, whatever it is that you want to accomplish and achieve, whatever it is, whatever transformation you want to go through, personally or professionally, it is going to require sacrifice. It's just a fact. John Maxwell says you got to give up to go up, and you have to go up higher to keep going up. You have to give up more. So whatever it is that we want to accomplish, most of the time we can, A, if we're willing to put the work in, and B, if we're willing to make the sacrifices, right? Because a lot of times what prevents us from accomplishing whatever it is we want to is the limitations that we put on ourselves. We get in our own way far more often than anything else stops us. So I wanted to talk about this third part of self-belief, which is I can grow beyond trauma. Because here's the thing, it's going to take sacrifice. They're going to be it's going to take discipline to accomplish what you want to, whatever your goals and dreams are, right? But here's the other part of that. There's also going to be roadblocks. There's going to be adversity. There are going to be times when you are charging forward, but you get stuck in the mud, right? Just like you're driving down the road, and sometimes you drive your car through a dirt road, and then there's this big mud puddle, and you start going through it, and the mud just sucks you down, and you get stuck. Right, there is going to be trauma or adversity or obstacles. If you haven't faced any of that yet, you will. Just stick around. Life is tough. Bad things happen. And a lot of times we allow that to derail us from accomplishing what we want to. And we don't mean to, right? We don't consciously say, gosh, this bad thing happened to me, so I'm going to let it get me off track for the rest of my life. But what happens is that when we go through something traumatic, whether it was in the past, in your past before, or maybe it's something you're going through right now, trauma creates drama, right? Trauma creates an opportunity to draw attention, but it also creates the opportunity to grow. You've probably heard the term post-traumatic stress, because when you live through something, it's stressful, right? There's no hierarchy on adversity. When you're going through a tough time, it's tough. And there's no measuring stick to say, well, gosh, it's not as bad as it could be. Well, sure. We could always look around and find someone that has it worse than we do, but it's still tough. It's still painful. It's still difficult. right? It's just as hard to get through something when you're trying to get through it. And it does create a lot of stress, but it also can create that opportunity for growth. And I would venture to say every difficult thing that I've ever been through has helped me grow in some way. Now, that doesn't mean it was fun. That doesn't mean it was pleasant. That doesn't mean I would necessarily choose to go through it again, but I grew through it, right? And sometimes that's the positive. Sometimes that's the upside. When I talk about, looking for the positives in situation and choosing a positive mindset, sometimes there just aren't any positives, except that it presents an opportunity to grow. And if that's all you get, then grab onto it, right? This season of life that you're going through, it might be the tough season. It might be that you're feeling down or depressed, or, maybe you're going through a lot of challenges, as so many people are right now through all this pandemic and dealing with the economic fallout and the social fallout. And there's so many challenges going on right now. But embrace the opportunity to grow through that. I want you to just know that you can lean in to your circumstance, whether it's past or present, and you can embrace that opportunity to grow. Now, it's probably not going to be fun, right? Growth is almost never fun because it's difficult. But that trauma presents an opportunity. It's an opportunity where we can embrace the growth and the potential to get stronger and become better. Or we can choose to embrace the drama and embrace the victim mindset. And I've shared with you before, the reason I talk about this is because I'm good at creating excuses for why I cannot do things. I'm like a master excuse creator, right? So I know that a lot of the time I just get in my own way. It's usually not anyone else's fault that I don't accomplish what I want or get to where I want. It's most of the time. It's something that I create my own roadblocks, or I'm not willing to put the sacrifice in. Or I create an excuse why I cannot do something, because it's easy to embrace trauma and embrace becoming a victim or being a victim, because that means I don't have to do anything to fix it, right? Or to move past it. It's easier. It's the path of least resistance to stay a victim when we go through trauma, because that trauma creates drama, and drama draws attention, right? So when something traumatic happens, it creates the drama and we share it. And some of that's natural. I mean, you want to look to the people around you to support you and lift you up, but be careful that you don't stay in that swirl. It's almost like I picture a whirlpool, right? When something happens that's traumatic, or we face adversity or an obstacle, just make sure that you don't get stuck and then sucked down into that whirlpool of the victim mindset. It's so easy to do, right? Because it does create attention. It's something that we are talking about to everybody around us. But just don't stay there, right? Refuse to stay a victim. And I know it's not easy to do. But you always have the choice to say, you know what, I don't want to stay a victim. Something bad happened, but I'm not going to let it hold me back. I'm not going to blame my lack of success on other people or external circumstances. Yes, bad things happen, but they don't have to hold us back. We are the only person that can do that. And that victim mindset is so easy to fall into, because then we start to create our identity based on being a victim. This bad thing happened to me. It was terrible. Poor, pitiful me. I'm sorry bad things happen. I wish I could prevent them from happening to you and everyone else, but I can't. But what I can do is just encourage you that you don't have to stay a victim. whatever you've been through, you can grow through that trauma, right? It's I've talked before about the inner 2-year-old. As adults, we've got to learn to control that inner 2-year-old, that wants to pitch a fit when we don't get what we want, or when we find something that's challenging, or we have to face something that we don't want to do, right? We've got to gain control of that inner 2-year-old and say, you know what? I have these feelings or emotions because of XYZ, but I don't have to let them dictate my choices, my behaviors, and my actions. Now, the more we do that, it's easier. The more we do it, the easier it is to do. And it certainly, what we go through when we face adversity in life, it's going to influence us. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but it doesn't have to define us, right? I am a different person today for having gone through the abuse that I went through as a teenager. There's no doubt I'm a different person. But it doesn't have to hold me back the rest of my life, right? I could continue to say, well, I could have used it as an excuse to stay working at the pizza restaurant. I could have just stayed there from then on and said, well, you know what? I didn't get the opportunity to go to college at 18, like a lot of high school seniors. So therefore, I'm just going to stay working at Pizza Hut, right? That was a choice that I could have made. But instead, I chose to say, you know what? I might not have gotten the opportunity to go to college at 18, graduating out of high school, but I can start working toward my GED. I start taking community classes at night. I had to go to school 7 days a week, sometimes nights and weekends. I didn't go to school 7 days a week. I was working sometimes 7 days a week and going to school. Right. And it took me 10 years to get done going to school and working a full-time job and sometimes 2 jobs. But that was a choice that I made, and saying, you know what, this happened. It's a fact. I can let it hold me back, and I can choose to make a career out of waiting tables, or I can choose to do something else instead. And I'm not patting myself on the back here. I'm just sharing that example of when we go through something, it's so easy to let it derail us. But if we lean into our circumstances and say, you know what, I'm not enjoying this. This is tough. It's challenging. I just want to sit around and cry. My inner 2-year-old says, man, this is bad. Let me just sit down and cry today, right? That's a choice that we could make. But we could also choose instead to lean into it and say, I'm not enjoying this. This isn't fun. This isn't easy, but I'm going to grow through it. I'm going to learn the lessons, and I'm going to get stronger because of it. I use the example when I first wanted to teach group fitness. I went to, it was a 3-day certification. So it was a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday certification. And I really had zero idea what I was getting into. And I had been, I'd been taking group fitness, and, I was in the gym pretty often. And so I considered myself, fairly fit. And so I signed up for the certification, and it was a barbell class. So it was barbell and weights. And, the class itself was an hour or 55 minutes. And so I wanted to teach it. So I signed up for the 3-day weekend certification and training. And I had no clue what I was getting myself into. I think the first day we worked out with weights more than about 3 hours. And I don't know about you, but working out with weights and lifting weights for more than 3 hours a day is well beyond what normal people do, right? Most people go to the gym and they do some weights or they take a class, but they don't do it for 3 hours. And it was far beyond what I was accustomed to doing at the time. And that I was so, I was exhausted that first night, and I woke up the next morning and I was so incredibly sore. And I, we take our showers, and the girl that I was rooming with, and we show up to training the next day. And boy, we were both already pretty sore. And the second day was just as challenging, maybe more challenging than the first day. And by the end of the third day, again, another almost 3 hours throughout the day. There was some lecturing and some teaching, and then we would practice, and then we would, practice again, and everybody had to practice. And so, yeah, the third day, I just about couldn't walk. I mean, it was just, my muscles were so sore. And, the thing is, when you work out like that, you're challenging your muscles and stressing them, and you create tiny little tears in the fiber of your muscle. And over time, that heals, and it kind of toughens up, and you get stronger. And that's what makes you stronger, is that breaking down those little tiny fibers that heal and get stronger after they've been torn, right? And so when we do that repeatedly, we get stronger physically. That's what helps us get stronger. You can't really get stronger unless you go through that process of challenging your muscles beyond what they're accustomed to. Now, we're the same way as people. Until we go through something, we can't grow through something, right? Because adversity and trauma, it definitely isn't any fun. It's painful. It's tough. But it does create that opportunity to grow. So I want you to just think about, as you go through your day to day, think about what's not going right in your world right now. Maybe you're still under quarantine from coronavirus, and maybe your vacation got canceled or rescheduled or postponed. Or maybe, your job is really tough right now, or it's stressing you out. Whatever it is, I want you to think about what's not going right, and then think about what opportunity does it have to help me grow. So, for example, if you're still quarantined, Mac and I have been home for about 3 straight months. And I don't think we've ever been home this much, because normally we're on the road traveling and speaking. And obviously all of that has stopped. And so maybe you're in that situation where you've been stuck at home, not, knowing it's better to be home than going somewhere. And at some point you're going stir crazy. You're like, I'm just desperate to get out, right? And that's not any fun. But what opportunity does it create for you to grow? Maybe there's a lesson in patience there for you. I don't know. I'm not familiar with your situation. You are. But look around at what's not going right, and then identify, how does this help me grow? How am I going to be stronger once I come through this? It's almost like developing that mindset and that inner peace, and just saying, you know what? This too shall pass, just like the saying goes. And just knowing that I'm going to get through this, and I'm going to be stronger because of it. I'm going to grow because of it. I can grow through trauma or adversity or obstacles or challenges. Because guys, there are going to be these things, right? Anytime we want to grow and develop ourselves, transform our world, whatever that looks like, big or small, there are going to be challenges and obstacles. There are going to be a lot of opportunities to choose to be the victim, or to choose to get up and say, you know what? Nope, I'm going to be stronger because of this. I'm not going to let this hold me back. I'm not going to let it derail me. When I went through that training, that 3-day certification, there was one girl that didn't come back after the first day. And I don't know her, and I didn't know her then. And I always wonder, does she regret not going through with it? She got through the first day and said, nope, this is just too hard. I don't want to do it this bad. And she quit. She didn't come back. And I wonder, if that had been me, I would forever regret that I gave up too easily, right? I know it was tough. It was tough for all of us. I have no doubt that it was tough for her too, because it was sure tough for me. But we always have the choice to just say, nah, I don't want it that bad. right? And that's why I think it's important to know where we're going, what direction we're heading in, because there are going to be times when you want to quit, when you want to give up, and you got to know before you go into it that you are not going to give up. You're not going to quit just because it's going to get tough, because you know up front it's going to get tough, but it's worth it, right? That's why it's so important to know why you're doing it, where you're going, because there are going to be days you don't feel like it. There are going to be days when it's not tough. I was talking with another marathon runner just the other day, and he made the comment. He said, "You know what? There were some days that you had a training run scheduled, and I just, you don't feel like it some days, but you have to get out and get going. And most of the time, when you get out there and start, you'll feel better about it, right? The hard part sometimes when you're facing that roadblock or that challenge or that I just don't feel like it, most of the time, if you'll get started, you can act your way into feeling more like it, right? Not always easy. It's not always going to be fun, but it's always something that we can lean into and know that we can grow through this process. Until next time. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the Fearfully and Wonderfully Me podcast. Hey, if you found value in today's episode, will you get social? Will you subscribe to the podcast? Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, leave a review, or get on social media and just share what you found valuable about today's episode. Because here's the thing, those subscriptions, those reviews, and then sharing on social media, that's what helps other people find out about the podcast, and that's what helps other people learn and grow with you. So if you found even just a nugget of wisdom or a quote that you enjoyed, or just something that you really enjoyed about today's episode, just get vocal about it and share it so that others in your network can grow too. Thanks for listening.